how I turn 2.5 thousand views into $10,000, so you can literally just copy me. So here are my results. Pause and read this if you want. This is a video with 2.5 thousand views and it got my guy $10,000. I'm just blurring his stuff here for confidentiality, of course. This is other stuff he had to say, and I'm not just cherry picking here. This is not a one-off thing. He consistently makes about 40K a month with only 6 to 8,000 views. And that's what I helped him achieve. Now, these are my own results. And as you can see, these are my results on my personal channels. These are all my channels except for this one here. This is my clients. As you can see, I know how to get views. But I was just bad at converting those views into cash. But now, obviously, that has changed. So in this video, I'll teach you the most important things I've learned. And there are only two main parts. But we're going to be going in depth, excruciating depth on many different things. Like, I put a lot of work into this. Like, I can't even tell you how much time this took me. Like, there's a lot of information here. So you might want to get like a pen and pencil out, because I don't see anyone else on the internet really talking about this. And that's not some stupid sales strategy. I genuinely, like, this is all from my brain. This is not from AI. This is from my brain. So, like I said, there are only two main parts, but you'll need both of them to make this effective. Part one is the growth and part two is the conversion rate. So let's start with part one, the growth. And most people will die here. YouTube is actually harder in 2026, especially for new channels. Why is this? Short answer, can you guess? AI. Put simply, it's literally just AI. But probably not for the reason you think. Okay, hey future me, so this is my second time recording this. I'm actually gonna redo this whole section here, because the first time I tried to record this, it was just way too confusing. So I'm actually gonna record this live, building this from the ground up. So hopefully it will be a lot simpler to understand. So the basic graph starts like this. On the y-axis, we have amount, or just y, and on the x-axis, we have skill, or information, or knowledge, basically. Basically, ability is on the x-axis. And we could even go further, because this graph is going to be pretty long. Now, the main part of this is the population. The population starts normally distributed over here, but then it becomes a power law of distribution. And if you've read anything about statistics or mathematics or anything like that, you are very familiar with this likely. So this right here is the median of the population. Most people are at around this in their skill level. But if you keep going, this point right here marks the beginning of the top 1% at whatever they do. So let me put this in perspective. This is the general population. This is 99% of people, right? But the top 1% is all the way over here. The top 1% spans so much more over that way. It's actually insane. The top 1% competing with this person absolutely dominates whoever this is, and whoever this is, and whoever this is. It's just a constant chain of constant just domination, if you know what I mean. The skill level increase is actually massive. I love this graph so much. This is one of my favorite graphs of all time for this exact reason. It accurately describes skill level at highly competitive endeavors. Also, mind you, the top 1% is just this area, pretty much. Actually, sometimes it's over here. And this point, this area here, I know this is getting a bit messy, but bear with me. This area here is like the top 0.001%, which is actually crazy. The distance between 0 and the 99%, or sorry, top 1%, is almost the same distance between the top 1% and number 1. And if you have that, it's roughly half of the distance between the top 1% and the top 0.001%. So the top 0.01% starts at roughly here. So number 1 is miles ahead of the top 0.001%. Now this can apply to many different things. It can apply to content, to business, to wealth, to skills such as sports. I know I've experienced this firsthand actually in pen spinning. I'm a top 3 or whatever pen spinner in the world, so I'm actually up here at a very, very niche competitive skill. And I've seen, I know it's super niche, so you might think it doesn't apply, but trust me, the models that I've learned through pen spinning are actually insane, because it is a very highly competitive skill. It's underground. It's very hard to find information on that kind of thing. You need to be in really small circles to really get good. To pass the top 1%, you need to be in small circles. You need to be finding resources that are hidden, that are not publicly available. And basically, with AI in the mix, AI is a synthesizer. AI takes all the information it can learn, which is everything here. Everything beyond the top 1% is hidden. It's not publicly available. That's what I'm trying to say with this whole graph. Everything in the whole normally distributed area is what AI is trained on. So AI is going to be the best out of all the publicly available information, which means AI is roughly here on the skill level of things. It's roughly here. It cannot progress further because a lot of information at high level competitive things are just gatekept. I don't want to be that guy who's just kind of saying everything's hidden, but it's really true. You have to go kind of in the dark web of things to really find extremely high level pieces of content. Now, AI has been getting better and better, and it has been reaching beyond the 1%, but it hasn't quite gotten up here yet. It hasn't quite reached the top 0.001%. Now, the point I'm trying to make with this is with AI, everyone has become in the top 1% of things, basically manufacture top 1%. So the new population curve looks kind of like this. Most people are actually here now, which means competition just before the top 1% is way too saturated. You cannot compete at the 1% anymore. You have to be better than that. You have to be pioneering. Actually, you have to find information that's hidden. You have to be talking to real people. You cannot be talking with AI all the time about things. AI does not know everything, and it certainly does not know the things that are spoken about within the small circles of very competitive, very hidden niches. So let me ask you a question. What actually defines the 0.001% from the rest? Like from AI, for example, the gap between the best AI and the 0.001%? It's innovation, whatever, TION. It's innovation. You need to be a pioneer. You need to push the boundaries of whatever you're doing further and further along. Now, this might sound super hard if you're not beyond the top 1% at whatever you're doing. And trust me, it is freaking hard. So yeah, like I said, there's another line here, and that is the effort. The effort to get here is roughly exponential. I know this looks super freaking messy, but basically what I'm trying to say is it's pretty easy to get into the top 1%. It's actually pretty freaking easy. It does not need much effort at all. But to get beyond that, it's exponentially harder and harder and harder. This is the effort line. It's insanely hard to get beyond the top 1%. Not even just for skill things, but also for information. Information specifically is very hard to get beyond the AI level, as I like to call it now, which is likely just beyond 1%, like right around here for certain things. For certain things like coding, it's pretty much all the way up here. It's hard to really be wrong at coding, but for other things like content, I'm tracing this back to content growth specifically. AI does not know the meta. I'm going to be honest. If you ask AI, it's just going to give you AI slop, which is everyone in here. You need to be better than the majority of people. AI has turned the majority of people into AI slop clones of itself. And so you need to be better than that by being a pioneer, by creating innovation. You need to push your own boundaries. You need to constantly be learning and evolving so that you can beat AI. Now, I know beating AI sounds like a massive undertaking, and trust me, it is. It's hard to get there, it really is, but it's possible. You just need to speak with the right people, learn the right things. You can ride AI. You can definitely use AI to your advantage to get to the top 1%. But beyond there, you need to reach out to real people. You need to actually surround yourself with the right audience, the right group of people, the tight-knit, closed groups, and really see on, it's sort of like the hidden web of things, because this type of stuff is not spoken about publicly, and that means AI cannot learn it. Anyway, that's a lot of yapping. Here's a better looking graph of what I was trying to say, but like I said, I tried recording this earlier and it just got way too complicated, so I thought I would just write everything down live. So that's basically it. Now, like I said, AI made the entry of the top 1% common, and this is known as AI slop right here. But it cannot touch the 0.001%, aka the innovation. That's where you need to be. You need to be in this section here. You need to be there to compete with today's AI clones of AI slop. Obviously, you can use AI like a power user and become here. You could even get up here and get a lot of results here. That's why there's so many people on Instagram and whatever LARPing with Claude, because it actually works. They know how to use it. They're part of this really small group of people that actually know how to use AI effectively. But the core base knowledge of AI has not progressed far enough to actually give real results to the common user. For example, if you ask AI to make you a viral video, a viral YouTube video, it will not work. It will not work. Put simply, it will not work, because virality at its core nature is to stand out. And AI does not stand out because it is the masses. It has become the new average. Now, I hope that explains things better. Now, back to the main part of the video. I know that was kind of a convoluted way of saying don't make AI slop, but hopefully that explains my point a little bit. Now, what's the most important thing to grow on YouTube? If you asked AI, it will probably say click-through rate and retention, or some kind of form of it. Now, this was meta a few years ago, don't get me wrong, 100%, but not anymore. That's the important thing. Times are changing and we need to change with it. Since AI is trained on public information, it will never say the real innovative things that get the most results, because the innovative things are mostly not public and definitely not mainstream enough for AI to find it. So what is the real answer? What is the most important thing to grow on YouTube? The real answer is actually impressions. Maybe if you prompted it well enough, it would give you the answer, but it will never say how to actually improve it effectively, because it hasn't caught up yet. That's what I'm trying to say with this whole thing, is AI has not caught up yet with the actual meta of YouTube. So here's how to improve it in the order of effectiveness, starting with number 1, packaging. This makes up roughly 80% of your results. YouTube runs on AI now, so your video has to tell that AI exactly who it's for. Now, YouTube has millions of videos. Why should it pick yours? That's an honest question. Genuinely, why should it pick your video? The answer is specificity. For example, let's say you have a cookie baking niche where you're making videos on baking cookies. Super basic example, I know, but here's the worst example for a video packaging. It's titled How to Bake Cookies with you as the thumbnail. I'm mostly talking about the title here. If it's titled How to Bake Cookies, this is probably one of the worst examples of titling your videos today. Now, this fails for 2 main reasons. Number 1, it's just the most generic, basic possible thing imaginable, like how to bake cookies. Literally, you can find probably a million videos like that. And that goes on to the second point. You're competing with titans. If you search how to bake cookies on YouTube, you're gonna get videos with millions of views. 36 million views, 1.2 million views, 4.3. Why would YouTube suggest your brand new, probably, or smaller channeled video compared to these videos? It's just not. So what about this one? The only cooking baking tutorial you'll ever need. Now, this one is better. We solved problem 1, but not problem 2. And we also added new problems on top of it. So why is this one bad? First of all, bold, salesy titles are largely dead in 2026. This is the AI level that previously worked a couple years ago, but not anymore. Like, I have a video with about 500,000 views right now on a different channel that's basically titled this, except in my niche. And it worked well because it was like 3 years ago. But this will not work now. So how do we fix this? First of all, remove all the fluff and find what's left. So for this, I introduce to you my Fluff Remover 3000. Look at this beautiful machine. In goes a fluffy title and out comes a clean title. So let's see what that is. We put in the only cooking baking tutorial you'll ever need. And out comes cookie baking tutorial. Isn't that so generic? We got rid of all the fluff and stripped it down to its bare bones, the most basic version of this title possible. So only is a buzzword, the we can get rid of. The you'll ever need is also unnecessary. So out comes cookie baking tutorial. The fluff remover 3000 strips your title to the core value, as you can see. If it's still long and still specific, then that means it's actually packaged well. But this one is just so generic, so boring, like this could be anything. It's a bad title, as you can see. So what about this title? The best way to fix dry, crumbly cookie dough made easy. Now this one's definitely better, but we can definitely improve it more. So let's see how the Fluff Remover 3000 fixes it. So in goes this title. The best way to fix dry, crumbly cookie dough made easy. And out comes this, how to fix crumbly cookie dough. That's basically how this works. So this is actually a bit better for today's YouTube compared to this title because it's a lot simpler to understand. And this one just seems so AI, but it still won't do well. So what do we need now? And for this, I introduced to you my HPC W Creamer 9000. Now HPC stands for Humanizing Psychological Copywriting. So this machine basically inputs something and outputs basically the humanizing psychological copywriting version of it. Now when I say these are machines, I don't actually mean your machines. Like these are not AI tools, these are literally just my brain. Although for this one you could probably just use AI to be honest. But this one is really hard for AI to get right. I tried, trust me. You can make it work slightly, but you're gonna have to use your own brain. But anyway, just thought I'd clarify that. This is my brain. It's not an actual machine. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take the output of the Fluff Remover 3000 and input it in the HPC W Creamer 9000. And out comes this. How I fixed my crumbly cookie dough, just copy me. Now, you might not think this, but this is actually meta today in today's YouTube, from what I've seen. So what's going on in the HPC W Creamer 9000? First, we have the humanizing part. This basically replaces the salesy / AI stuff with more real feeling stuff. So stuff like lamau, fuck it worked, lol. Basically humanizing stuff. Just pretty much don't be AI or don't be salesy. That's what humanizing means. Now, the second part is psychological. This targets their core beliefs / desires. So it sells the outcome, not the actual video, if that makes sense. Now I could go on a whole video about this, but we don't want to make this 12 hours long. So next and final part is the copywriting. Basically, good copywriting is, put simply, lower complexity, increase value. This is like textbook definition of good copywriting, I think. You're basically trying to remove as much complexity as possible in the title, so brain rot TikTokers scrolling infinitely can stop and read it in a split second, and it increases the value. So they get as much value as possible from the title in as little amount of brain power as possible, if that makes sense. And that's basically what this does. So yeah, let me break down this title specifically. So first of all, as you can see, I changed how to how I, and that goes on to another point. People usually don't like being told what to do. They usually like seeing other people do something. And then if that's true, you can add something like just copy me at the end, as you can probably see with the title of this video right now. And that's pretty much the main change we changed here. Another thing is we made everything lowercase. You don't really need to do that. I just kind of did that to emphasize the humanizing part. But from what I can tell, capitals don't really matter too much, especially for 2026. This would be a lot different a few years ago. As Mr. Beast said, capitaling every title is like super important. But from what I've seen now, it doesn't make too much of a difference. So yeah, that's basically title. And title is the most important, but the thumbnail still matters. But for thumbnails, the rules are slightly different. I could make a whole video on thumbnails, but the too long didn't read answer is what the fuck value. Plain simple as that. Like, it needs to grab the viewer, it needs to make them actually look at your video and read the title. So what the fuck value plus title connection. This is the main thing that's basically gonna make your packaging good. And this actually goes into a whole theory I have on the title and thumbnail connection. And that is that packaging success is equal to the total volume of the distance and strength between the title and thumbnail. And the total volume is the distance times the strength. So for example, we have a title here the distance is short and the strength is massive, so we have a decently volumized pipe here between the title and thumbnail. Now this example is the complete opposite. There's a massive distance, but the strength is low, so the volume is roughly the same as this one. An ideal title and thumbnail connection would be massive volume, meaning a great distance and a great strength. Now I could make a whole video on this talking about, the diameter of the pipe, the multi-pipe system. I mean, these are all things that I have come up with that seem to work very well actually. So if you have any questions, feel free to DM me on my personal Instagram for free. This is my personal Instagram, it's not a business account or anything. You can literally just ask me a question for free if you want. But anyway, we're not done yet. We still have all this. So let me take a breath here. Number 2, we have audience satisfaction. This dictates roughly 20% of your results. If you can remember, the packaging was about 80%, the audience satisfaction is 20%, and that's for a very specific reason. Packaging comes first. Once your packaging is good, then audience satisfaction matters, and then audience satisfaction really matters in the long term. So if people genuinely got value, they like, comment, and share. Now, I know you've heard that advice a million times, but it's actually still important in 2026. The order of importance of things usually follows a circular pattern. Here's a little graph I made. On the x-axis, we have underrated versus overrated, and on the y-axis, we have not important versus important. So usually things follow this type of pattern. Maybe they start super important and not really underrated or overrated, such as around here, and then they move along this line and they get more and more overrated and less important. And they keep getting less and less important until here. And this is the point where they're the most overrated, but they're like medium effectiveness. Then it keeps going more and more and more. And this is the point where it's the least effective or the least important, and it's kind of not underrated or overrated. It's just kind of there. And then after this point, it becomes more and more underrated, but then the effectiveness or importantness of it increases. And now here, we have something that is the most underrated, but is up and coming. This is where you usually want to catch trends happening. This is the most important place you want to be. The most underrated spot that is climbing up to be the most important. And my whole point behind this is I think likes, comments, and sharing is roughly here right now. It will become slightly more important very soon, but then after that, I believe it will likely decrease in importance. So why does this work in 2026? Basically, the way the YouTube algorithm works for videos is YouTube pushes your videos in tests. Now, there are usually 4 tests before it goes evergreen. And what I mean by that is we have initial test 1. And this is the learning phase. This is where every video starts, and it's basically your baseline views for the channel. And during test 1, or the learning phase, YouTube basically tests your packaging. That's why packaging is so important. It determines if you get a second test or not. If your packaging is shit, or I should say just right before the tipping point of good packaging, it will never get another test, and it will flatline at your average baseline views. But if your packaging is good, then it will get another test. And that's this line, as you can see here. It's quite small, but it's still there. Now, if YouTube finds that test was good, it's going to give you another test right here. Now, obviously, these are kind of rough. As you can see, there's slight influx in views there and maybe here as well. But this is from what I've seen the average. There's usually 4 tests. And then finally, this is kind of my prediction for how this video is going to go. But I predict that this specific video, this is also a video I made pretty recently, but I predict that this video will kind of go around here and then another test at around here. And after that, it might not be that steep, to be honest. It'll probably be, I think like this. And then this, it probably won't go up there, but it will probably be like here. And then it will probably go evergreen after this, which basically means on a really zoomed out view, it kind of just keeps going up and up and up. But we're not there yet, so let's continue. So yeah, basically test 1 is YouTube learning your packaging. If you fail this test, like I said, you never get another test, and that's why packaging is so important. Now test 2 means you passed the packaging test, and you actually got a real test this time. Now, time to test the actual audience. Now, this is where audience satisfaction actually comes in. When you get a test 3, it means your video was actually received well, which is usually the case more often than not for videos that I help make, because the quality is just there. It's very rare that there's a video that doesn't get past test 2, because that means your video was shit but your packaging was good. And packaging is a lot harder to get right in 2026. But anyway, now that you have a test 3, this means it was received well in test 2 and you get, your third test. And then test 4 is really the big final test. And when you get a test 4, it probably means it's your best performing video, or at least top 5 or whatever. And your video will likely go evergreen, which basically means it will keep going up and up and up, like this video right here. Like it says here, evergreen is when the test becomes much more long term. So this is one of my videos. It's pretty recent actually. It's just about 18 days old, or no, about like 16 or 17 years old. Of course it is. But anyway, as you can see, this video has 4 tests roughly. The very first initial test, it didn't really do anything. I mean, it's hard to tell. This is like really small scale, but just try and imagine. It's roughly 4. As you can see, maybe one there, maybe one there. And then there's definitely one here, and then there's definitely one here. And after that, it just kind of kept going up and up and up and up. And you can't really identify a single solid test now. And that's because this whole thing is actually a test of itself. This is the evergreen test. And this usually happens after your 4 tests are successful. Now this means your content was very well received and very well packaged. YouTube knows exactly who this video is for, and viewers seem to actually enjoy your video. So YouTube is going to keep on pushing your video. And as you can see, the tests get massively longer and longer. Like this video here. This video was 3 years ago. This is a long time ago. This is one of my videos. As you can see, I mean, you can't even see the first 4 tests. There's probably even another evergreen test like right here, but it's just so small you can't even see it because of the next evergreen test, which basically is this. It basically kind of becomes slightly linear. But once this test was done, another evergreen test happened because this video was perceived so well by the audience. The audience just really enjoyed this specific video. And so it got another evergreen test, as you can see here. This is a massive test. This evergreen test right here lasted pretty much a whole year almost. And the second evergreen test is still ongoing. Now, I can't predict what's going to happen next. I think maybe, from the looks of things, it will keep going slightly up. I'm terrible at drawing lines. What is wrong? But yeah, I think it will slightly go like this, and then maybe another test. If I'm lucky. I'm not entirely sure, because that's like in another year at that point. But yeah. So other than packaging and audience satisfaction, what else can we do to ensure the evergreen level, which is the level we all want to get to, with 400,000 views almost? And that moves us to the third part, and that is channel trust. Now this is long term. This isn't really effectiveness per video. It is effectiveness per channel. So if you get the first 2 parts right and keep posting consistently, this will naturally fall in place. It's not something to focus on or really worry about specifically other than just being consistent. But funnily enough, this has one of the largest impacts on a new video. I know that might seem contradictory, so let me explain. Remember this video graph here, and remember the first test here? Basically, your channel trust determines how big your test number 1 is. So however well your video does at the initial test is basically determined by your channel trust, which is really kind of bad for new channels because this test literally gets like 5 views, but that's just how the game works. And like I said, earning channel trust takes a lot of time. So how much time? Obviously there's going to be some variance to this rule, but in my experience, it's usually about 3 months before your channel really solidifies into the correct audience satisfaction and packaging. So yeah, about 3 months. That's about 13 high quality videos if you're posting once a week. So basically, with all of this right here, too long didn't read, focus first on packaging, then on audience satisfaction, and then stay consistent even when you have no results. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to just send me a message on my personal Instagram at tashielyonns. I'll answer any questions you have within reason. I was going to cover this part, but I think we've kind of run out of time. I've been recording for like 50 minutes. I don't want this video to get too long. So yeah, I'm probably going to put this in a second part because yeah, it's pretty freaking long as well. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you like this video, let me know, and feel free to message me if you have any questions. See you in the next one.